Good morning, church.
Good morning.
Last week we began an adventure into the books of Psalms. And together we're learning that the book of Psalms is a book for all seasons of life. The Psalms are a collection of 150 of the greatest songs ever written. So I decided to find out what the internet thought were the greatest songs ever written. And according to Rolling Stones magazine, here is what they are. Bob Dylan, Like a Rolling Stone. Rolling Stones, I Can't Get No Satisfaction. John Lennon, Imagine. Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. And Aretha Franklin, Respect. And the list goes on and on from there. Something I learned from this list. They don't seem to know much about history. Because if they did, they would know that the most sung song of all times is Happy Birthday. And the most loved song of all times is Psalms 23. Among literary scholars, poetry scholars, and biblical scholars, Psalms 23 is regarded as the single greatest piece of literature ever written. And amongst Christians, Psalms 23 may be the most encouraging and most frequently memorized chapter of all times. Its 6 sentences are recited at more bedsides and gravesides in every season than any other. The title tells us this is a Psalm of David. And David's poem consists of 7 simple statements. I want to show you how the Middle Easterners see this psalm. It is written in a way all Middle Eastern stories are written, the chiastic style. Chi is the Greek letter for X. Chiastic means it is written like the left side of an X. Here is what it looks like. This pattern isn't an accident. This is a well-written psalm. David begins by telling us he has everything he needs because he has the Lord. He concludes by telling us because of this, he will have everything he needs forever. In the 2nd and 6th statement, he has all the food and drink he needs. In the 3rd and 5th statement, he has all the peace and security that he needs. Now, in the exact middle of the poem, he says, so even in my darkest moments, I will not fear. This is a poem to learn from and live by. Because if the Lord is your shepherd, you will have no wants, including food and drink, and security and peace, so you will never have to fear, but face the world with faith and hope, in the world to come with anticipation. Now let's walk through this together. In his childhood days, David was a shepherd. He tended his father's sheep on the hillside of Judea. David knew what it was like to be a good shepherd. And he knew what it was like to be a well-cared-for sheep. David writes as a Middle Easterner. Westerners think like individuals. We think me, my, and I. Easterners think like a community. They think we, ours, and us. When they see the 11 I's, me, and my's in this poem, they see themselves not alone, but in the middle of a flock. In the middle of a community. And yes, this promise here are for me, but they are promises for all of us. All of us get to experience this life with the shepherd. David writes this song from the perspective of a sheep. What do we know about sheep? America's national symbol is an eagle. Great Britain's is a lion. Russia's is a bear. Scotland's is a unicorn. No nation has ever designated the sheep as their national symbol. Now have they? Why? Because no one wants to be a sheep. Sheep are defenseless and dependent. But if the Lord is your shepherd, you are a sheep. David's opening line summarizes the whole song. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. When the Lord is my shepherd, all my wants are taken care of. This is the world of the sheep. And the other 6 statements show how this promise is true. Statement 2 says, He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still water. You know the proverb that says, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink? Well, no one can make a sheep drink either. And no one can make a sheep lie down if it doesn't want to. Sheep only lie down when they have plenty to eat, they have quenched their thirst, and they are not threatened. The barking of one stray dog can cause an entire herd to jump up and run off, if not stopped by the alert shepherd. He makes me lie down. Makes it sound like there's force involved. But what David means is, He settles me down. He settles me down in green pastures. The climate in Israel is semi-desert. There are only 3 months of green pastures. For sheep, this means they get to eat in the brown pastures with dead, dried out straw, instead of pastures of green, tasty grass. The Lord settles His sheep in green pastures by leading them to places of refreshment they could not find on their own. Israel has no fenced fields, no agro farms, or cultivated hay fields. Sheep are led out of a village each day to graze in the wilderness. In the north, shepherds will take their sheep up 8,500 feet to find green pastures in the summer. In the winter, they'll feed them in lower elevations. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He settles me down in green pastures. The second part of this sentence is, He leads me beside still waters. The shepherd has to plan his daily schedule around the availability of water in the middle of the day. Traditionally, grazing rights, relationship between shepherds, and the power of the shepherd's tribe or village are all involved in the selection of where to graze and where to water your flock. The good shepherd leads me, David says. He doesn't drive me. The shepherd does this by walking slowly ahead of his sheep and either playing a 10-second tune on his pipe or singing his own unique song or call. Each sheep knows his shepherd's tone or his pipe. They know his voice. In this region of the world, shepherds will gather together at watering holes, where all the sheep will mingle and drink and rest. When a shepherd decides it's time to leave, he gives his call, and his sheep will immediately separate themselves from the mixed flock and follow their shepherd wherever he leads them. The phrase, "He leads me beside still water," is literally beside still water. Sheep are afraid to drink from moving water, even if it's shallow. They know instinctively that if they get caught in that water, their will soak it up and drown them. So, where there's a stream, the shepherd will dig a short dead-end channel that leads away from the stream. All the sheep will line up and drink from this channel. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He settles me in green pastures. He leads me beside still water. Sentence 3. He restores my soul. He leads me in path of righteousness for his name's sake. In Hebrew, the first part of this sentence reads, "He brings me back." Arthur Ken Bailey explains, this makes clear that the sheep is lost, and the good shepherd is obligated to go after it, find it, and carry it back. Bailey says, shepherds in the Holy Land have told me that once a sheep knows that it is lost, it tries to hide under a bush or rock and begins quivering and bleating. The shepherd must locate it quickly, lest it be heard and killed by wild animals. On being found, it's usually too traumatized to walk and must be carried back to the flock or to the village. This is why the shepherd must lead the sheep back to the path of righteousness, to right paths. The lost sheep can't find its way home. As a lost sheep, my only hope is the shepherd. Once I've strayed off the path, he must pick me up and carry me to safety. I can't do it on my own. I need the shepherd. All the villagers know the good shepherd's heart. The ones who never lose a sheep. The ones who always bring back their lost ones. Middle Eastern villages have an honor-shame culture. Honor is everything. No self-respecting shepherd would leave his lost sheep. His reputation he has a reputation to uphold. So the good shepherd finds the lost sheep and picks them up and carries them home. Yes, for their sake, but he loves them, and for his name's sake too. The most important line in the poem is the fourth one. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. In certain places in the Holy Land where there is sandstones that have been carved by wind and rains for centuries, there are deep, dark valleys of danger that are no joke to sheep or people. If you've ever heard of the city of Petra, it's one of those places. Petra is a city built into the sandstone walls of an ancient area of Jordan. From this picture, you can see how narrow the walls are. The walls are so close together that it keeps the sun out. And when there's a flood, there is no place to run. These narrow canyons become a valley of death. George Lanza, in his book, Shepherds of All, writes, "Valleys of the shadow of death are paths which wind in between mountains where there are dark shadows and deep gorges. Travelers march slowly and silently in order to avoid being seen or heard by bandits. The fear of death is constantly on their minds. They tremble. They expect trouble or death at any time while they are passing through. Fear can be paralyzing, as sometimes these valley passageways can be avoided, or cannot be avoided, either in Israel or in our lives. Sheep have a specific problem. They have no defenses. Cats have claws. Dogs have teeth. Horses can kick. Bears can bite and claw. And deers can run. Sheep have no game. They can't bite, claw, or outrun any serious predator. The sheep's only security is the shepherd, which leads to David's next line, and why he doesn't fear. I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The sheep's defenses and offense is the shepherd. A shepherd's rod is a 2.5-foot club, usually carved out of a piece of wood with a knot in the end. The shepherd would embed pieces of iron to add strength and weight to the knot. Think of a mace, but made of wood. Wolves and bears are taller than sheep. So a shepherd can hurl his club over the backs of sheep to knock the predator in the head. Up close, this club is a formidable weapon. A shepherd's staff, or a crook, was just what you've seen in the pictures. A long stick with a curve at the end of it. The shepherds climb with it and can use it to direct their sheep who've huddled around them. It's long enough to reach and guide the closest sheep in the right direction. It's usually about 5 feet long, and the shepherd is never without it. When a lamb scrambles down the ledge or falls into a crevice, the shepherd uses his staff to catch him by the leg or shoulder and gently lift him back onto the path. The rod is for protecting the flock from external threats. The staff is for directing the flock in its daily grazing. The sight of these two tools comfort the sheep. The 6th statement says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows." In this verse, David makes a shift from being a sheep to a guest. And in his mind, God moves from being a shepherd to a host. To prepare a table means to prepare a meal. In traditional Middle Eastern society, people eat without plates or utensils. Everyone takes a piece of flatbread and tears off a small piece, which they use to lift food from a common dish to the mouth. It's much more sanitary than our way of taking a fork and putting it in our mouths than placing it back on the plate. Each bite starts with a fresh piece of bread. There is nothing to do to set a table. My host prepares my meal in the presence of my enemy. People who are hostile to me. The host knows that if he prepares a meal for me, the people who are watching or hostile towards me will become hostile towards him. But he doesn't care. He loves me enough to bear the scorn of the people who doesn't like me. Excellent hosts in the Middle East do more than just serve food. They make your stay at their home pleasant. One way they do this is they wash your feet. A second is they anoint your head with oil, pouring a sweet-smelling lotion on you that makes you feel good all over. It helps a lot in a pre-deodorant culture. As David's host poured oil on his head, the enemies who are present are infuriated. His host is sparing no effort to make this one whom they hate feel special. And if that wasn't enough, waiters are hovering over him so that every time he takes a sip of wine, they refill his cup. It's overflowing. He can never drink it down. So to recap, as David thinks about his life, he sees it for what it is. A walking adventure with a shepherd host who cares for his every needs everywhere he leads him. David is saying, I'm never going to complain again with my God. It's always an overflowing cup. It's always the best robe. It's always the fattened calf. It's always joy unspeakable. Maybe your life is this way too. If the Lord is your shepherd, this is your song. And this is your promise, because this is your life. He settles you in green pasture. He leads you beside still water. He carries you back from the wrong path and leads you onto the right path for His name's sake. Even during the times when you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you don't have to fear evil. Your shepherd is with you. He carried a rod to protect you, a staff to direct you. He prepares your daily food, even while your enemies are watching, and He pours oil on your head. He never lets your cup get empty. As David thinks about how God has always cared for him, he thinks about the future and proclaims, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is the shepherd-sheep image again. It's getting towards nighttime. The shepherd is leading you home. As it gets dark, he stations his assistant at the rear of the herd so no wolf can attack. If the shepherd has a dog, he sends him to the rear too. As the shepherd leads you from the front, his dog and assistant watches over you from the back. They are your rear guard. David says, the two guards God has stationed to follow me home are goodness and mercy, Tov and Hesed. Goodness and mercy guides my plans, then follows me all the days of my life. I am never without them. If the Lord is your shepherd, you are not being followed by evil. You are being followed by goodness and mercy all the days of your life. And if that's not enough, because the shepherd is also a host, he has prepared a place for you, and it's called heaven. You will live in the house there forever. This, my friends, is a great song. It beats Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone, and it beats Rolling Stone's No Satisfaction. If the Lord is your shepherd, you are known, loved, and prepared for and cared for. And you have satisfaction every day and forever. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. 9 words. You know the most important word of these 9? It's the little word, mine. Lots of people know that the Lord is a shepherd. Lots know that He is the shepherd. But only some know Him as their shepherd. Who is your shepherd? Is it your husband, your wife, your pastor, your parent, your close friend? No one can shepherd you like the great shepherd Jesus. When you come to the place where you can say with conviction, I follow Jesus, then like David, you can say, the Lord is my shepherd. And immediately, when you say this, you can say, and therefore I shall not want. Because He takes care of me. He supplies everything for me. May you grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.